Good evening, everyone. It is 5 o'clock. This is a February meeting of the El Paso Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. I would ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I would ask Ms. Searles to lead us in the Texas Pledge.
Why, thank you, Mr. Miller. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay. The next item, the next order of business is a roll call. I'll just go down and just please signify your presence. Mr. Avalos?
Present.
Ms. Lucero?
Present.
Present.
Mr. Minna?
Present.
Walter Miller is present. Ms. Searles?
Here.
Mr. Stout?
It's his birthday, so he's probably partying.
Yeah. Hope he's not playing golf. But Mr. Taylor?
Mr. Taylor.
Okay, we have established a quorum. The first item on the agenda is public comment. Has anyone signed up for public comment? Is anyone in the audience wish to address this body?
Mr. Chairman, no one signed up for public comment.
Thank you very much. We can go on to item 2, which is approval of the minutes for the January 21st, 2021 Board of Directors meeting.
Move to approve.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
Okay, I have a motion, I believe, from Ms. Searles. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I'll second.
I have a second
Ready,
from Mr.
second.
Taylor. Is there any discussion regarding the minutes?
No.
No, sir.
Is anyone opposed to the adoption of the minutes? Hearing none, the item will pass. Item number 3 is discussion and possible action regarding the 2019-2020 financial audit report. Dinah, will you present this?
Yes, sir. Board members, we have with us Mr. Pena from Pena Briones McDaniel and Company, who does our outside audit. All of you received copies of the audit about 2.5 weeks ago, and then we send them out again on Friday. But he is here to go over some bullet points and answer any of your questions. We have it as a discussion and action as a matter of transparency. It is what it is, but it is as a matter of transparency on our agenda so that we can have it in the minutes that it was discussed and reviewed and any questions answered. So, Mr. Pena, thank you for coming.
Okay. Thank you all. Appreciate the opportunity to present the audit to you. Appreciate the opportunity to serve you all and do the audit. I'll try to be brief. I won't take too much of your time, but I do want to give you a full analysis. What I sent you, what we sent out today as a revised, I apologize, there was one little error, always happens last minute. But anyway, if I could go over that 5-year summary, and I think that's the best way to handle the review of the audit as opposed to nitpicking on every word. But again, if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to stop me and ask. I like to say we're historians. We're giving you an audit of the past. Well, 1 year doesn't tell me a lot, but if I look over a 5-year period, I think it gives you a good analysis of trends, and trends seem to replicate themselves with different variations. So allow me to do that if I could. What you have again in front of you is a 5-year summary. We're just highlighting some of the important high number items, your total current assets. I like to point this out because it reflects the liquidity. And in your case, the liquidity means the funds that we're getting from the taxing jurisdictions, from the taxing entities, and then transferring to the taxing jurisdictions. So obviously very important. As you can see, we've grown substantially. And I'd like to say that means the city of El Paso has grown substantially. There were years where this 5-year schedule was pretty consistent. And now you can see that we've gone from 6,900,000 just a few 5 years ago all the way to 7,600,000. So a nice $700,000 gain, which is about a 10% growth in our total current assets. And a lot of businesses would like to grow 10% in a short time frame, a reflection of the city again. Your total assets have also jumped up from $10.8 million to $11.7, again, close to $1 million increase. And I'd just like to tell you that a lot of that increase is due to the property, plant, and equipment. Our cash a little bit down compared to the previous year. But again, a pretty significant growth of 10% over this same 5-year period. Now, what makes up the current assets, your total assets, I meant to say, is an increase over the past year from our $12,772,000. We actually dropped to $11,756,000. And that's made up of two functions: an increase of property, plant, and equipment. We did acquire another $325,000 worth of equipment this year, but we did have a pretty good drop in our total as this period of time cash. Our cash position did drop about $800,000 compared to the year end September of 2019. So the biggest reason for the reduction from 12.7 to 11.7 is a cash reduction of $820,000. Moving on, just to continue, your total net position, total net pension liability, this is something we've talked about before. Your pension liability, look at that huge drop compared to the prior year. You were sitting with a pension liability of $1,390,000. And what that means is that the actuaries had determined that in the future, you would have a pension cost of approximately, I'm trying to flip to that page, that you would have a pension cost of approximately $14.2 million, I'm sorry, a year ago, $14.2 million, and that you were basically underfunded, which is normal, by a pension liability a year ago of $1.3 million. This year, your market appreciation of the pension, what I'm getting at is the pension investments grew so substantially by $1,769,000. You don't have to look at it right now, but you could mark it on page 19 of your financial statement is the analysis for this. But I want to just brag about it, that the market for your previous year, sitting with $10 million in pension, you jumped a huge increase of $1.7 million. As a result of that, your outstanding liability dropped from $1.3 million all the way to only $300,000. So what that means is our future obligation is within $300,000 of our entire cost. Basically, and this sounds crazy, I've never sent this to another client, you're pretty much at 99% funded, which is outrageously high. If I can point one more thing regarding the pension, your pension is sitting with a discount value of 8.1%. That's also very high value. Again, the actuary is required, and he did present an analysis of the pension where he said, well, if you didn't have that high a discount, if you dropped it by 1%, what would happen? And bottom line is, if you dropped it by 1%, you would still be 84% funded, which is extremely high. So, moral of the story, why am I talking about this so much, is the market was very, very good to y'all last year, and you all are sitting, your pension is sitting in a very strong position. Okay, I'll stop on that. So the next item I wanted to point out very briefly is your total net position this year. That's your capital position. You're sitting at $4.14 million. Last year, you're at $3.991. Not very much variance over the 5-year period. And what this really means is that management has been able to maintain the overall costs of the organization going into the future. You can see you're at 4.1, 3.5, 4.6, and a lot of that variation is because of the pension. Moving on down below, your net revenues, just to point out, over the past year, you can see your revenues have grown quite a bit. But if you look at a 5-year period, your revenues, which again is a reflection of the taxes that are coming in, and not just because of tax rates, but mostly because of the growth of the city, your total taxes coming in have been were at 13,200,000, and they've jumped all the way to 1.2, and that represents about a $1.9 million increase, a 14% increase, again in a 5-year period. And again, I'd like to say, if I was talking to any other organization and I said, hey, you're going to grow 14% in a 5-year, they would be very elated to that. So the city of El Paso doing very good under y'all's representation. So what did we do with that? Well, the expenditures, as you can see, have really been pretty consistent. In fact, if you look at the expenditures this year at 14.7, last year at 14.5, that only represents a 0.8% increase, less than 1% increase in total expenditures this year compared to last year. But again, because the city's grown, it does represent about a 12% increase over this same 5-year period. So our revenues have gone up 14%. Our expenditures overall have gone up 12% over this 5-year period. In relation to that expenditures, and again, you don't have to look at it now, but just to point out on your financial statements, if you would mark on your financials on page 34 and page 33, those pages have the amounts, the funds that will be going back to the taxing jurisdiction. But more importantly, on page 32 of the financial statement is a basic comparison of your expenditures in 2019 and 2020. And if you just were to run your fingers down, you can see the comparisons are pretty close. Jumping all the way to the bottom page, there's an increase of about $600,000 overall. And what's crazy about this past year is COVID entered the picture. So, for instance, your seminars and travel dropped significantly from 160 all the way down to 105. Janitorial services and maintenance services, as well as also reflected quite a bit of an increase. Your utilities went down a little bit. Again, fewer people or people coming in intermittently. So COVID did have an effect on this. But I think page 32 allows you, especially as businessmen, to compare one year to the other year and be able to see what type of direct changes there were from one year, 2019, to the next year, 2020. But overall, pretty modest increase, if you ask me, 0.8%, 1% from this year to last year. And all this has allowed the taxing jurisdictions to have a refund coming to them this year of $1,047,000 compared to the previous year of $1,003,000, about a $300 reduction in the taxing jurisdictions refunds coming to them. To be honest, that pretty much completes my report. In overall, I left out the most important thing. It is an unqualified report. The financial statements are presented in accordance with GAAP. And we also do an analysis of your internal control and compliance. And that's the last report of the financial statement. And in that, we just indicate that we had no problems, we had no findings, we had no question costs. It's a clean report, which has been consistent year after year after year. That completes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Pena.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Pena.
Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Pena?
No? Nobody out there?
No questions.
Question. I believe that I did want to ask one question. Who is
Yes,
the
of
pension
course.
administrator?
Pardon?
Who administers the pension?
Texas County and Appraisal Districts, TCDRS.
TCDRS.
Yes, sir. We're part of TCDRS.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any further questions?
Mr. Miller, I have just a comment.
Ms. Searles?
I can't. I've been sitting on this board a long time, and I've watched the things that the board members have asked for and requested, they're so reflected in this audit, and we had an amazing audit. To the CAT employees, thank you very much, and Ms. Kilgore for all that you've done. This was really good. And something that I saw that was really awesome was we did that dealer's motor vehicle inventory tax statement, and I think the board, I don't know, it's probably at the very beginning in the actual overview. We ended up with $10,000 plus in doing that, and that was so creative and, you know, really outstanding. So thank you all, and thank you, Mr. Miller, for the time.
Certainly, certainly. Any other comments or questions regarding this item? I believe in an abundance of caution, I would ask for a motion to accept the audit as presented.
Move to accept the audit as presented.
That's from Mr. Mena. And is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Ms. Searles. Is there any opposition to to accepting this audit? Hearing none, we will consider the item approved. Okay, we can go on to item number 4, which is discussion and possible action regarding the EPCAD investment policy.
The investment policy is a policy that was put together by the Board of Directors several years ago, and it is reviewed at the same time that we do our outside audit. The last amendment that we did was in 2018. We follow GATSB and federal guidelines. In reviewing this, we are still within those guidelines, and the policy has not changed. We're not recommending any adjustments to our policy. We don't have long-term investment. Our investment is year to year. At the end of the year, we start all over again at the beginning of our fiscal year. So it is a very basic investment policy. You guys have received it. It's the same one that we had last year, same one we've had since 2018. So I was recommending no changes. Ms. Goldman, was there anything you wanted to add?
No, I just didn't know if he mentioned that he reviewed it today. The other firm reviewed it, and they are okay with it.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Pena's firm did review our investment policy. We have them review it every year when they do our outside audit, and they made no recommendations.
Thank you very much. Are there comments or questions regarding this item? So I believe that the action item we would have would be a motion to accept the investment policy as written with no changes from last year. Do I have a motion? And that was Ms. Searles?
Uh-huh.
I'll second it.
And Mr. I will second. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, does anyone disapprove this agenda item? Hearing none, we will consider the item approved.
Thank you, Mr. Mena, for coming in.
Item number 5 is review and approval of financial reports, October 2020 through November 2020.
Ms. Goldman, our CFO, is going to present the balance sheets. You all should have copies of this. It was in your packet that was sent out on Friday.
Good evening, Rosa Goldman, Chief Financial Officer. And we are presenting the financial report for the months of October and November 2020. The financial report contains the balance sheet, report of revenues, expenditures, and changes in cash balance, the investment report, and the note to the financial report. These 2 months are the first months of the fiscal year, or fiscal year 2020-2021. So as you can see, we don't have any negative variances, and there are no notes to the report because we don't have any account over budget. Our encumbered funds for the litigation reserve continues to be the same for this fiscal year, $429,826. Are there any questions?
Does the board have any questions regarding the financial report?
No, sir.
I don't think so. I'm good.
Hearing no discussion, do I have a motion for approval of the financial report?
Move to approve financial report.
I have a motion from Mr. Mena. Is there a second?
Second.
A second from Mr. Taylor. Is there any opposition to this agenda item? Hearing none, the item is approved. Item number 6 is discussion and possible action on resuming in-person board meetings. It seems that hopefully we are moving towards some relief from the COVID pandemic. However, we also want to understand that there are many different opinions on what we should be doing here. So this is an open commentary on whether what we do in the future, how we go about trying to get back together again. I'll go first. Personally, we want to do this very cautiously. I've talked to our executive director, and she's explained to me about how she can set this boardroom in. It's a spacious setting. We have the technology to do so. I believe that we would be able to do so safely. However, we are open to discussion from the rest of the board members. So I'm opening it up for discussion.
Well,
Mr. Taylor.
are we talking about the format of the current meetings and making a change?
I believe so.
All the meetings
In person,
In-person
everybody
meeting.
come in,
Yes,
yes, sir.
everybody come in back
Yes,
in
sir.
person.
person.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think that we can accomplish more by eye-to-eye contact as opposed to what's going on now. I think that we are at a level right now, health-wise, that we can take that risk.
I must remind, and this is just a comment, that I don't believe under the governor's order that we are able to do anything that's mandatory, that we will still have to offer an alternative. However, that being said, I still think, I agree with Mr. Taylor that in-person meetings are generally more effective. So that's just
I have a
comment.
few comments, Mr. Miller.
Mr. Mena.
I believe that we should grab the bull from the horn and start coming in. I've been coming in. But at the same time, we need to respect people's health, and not everybody is as healthy as I am, or Mr. Taylor, or you. But when does it stop? When are we gonna officially start coming in? Is it a year from now? 2 years from now? I personally, just taking precaution and being 6 feet apart, I believe that we can get everybody in here. And I'd just like to see everybody's face. But I would like to respect their, if they don't want to come in, I don't think we can force them to come in. So, but I would love to see you guys here.
Would you like for me to tell them an idea of what we're
Ms. Lucero, do you have a comment?
Yes, I kind of agree with Mr. Mena. I think it's a personal choice as far as safety, and I think each of us has a different degree of risk. I don't know what you all do as far as employment or how much you need to put yourself out there ready. But I know I would rather, I'm going to come in March. We've resumed in-person meetings at YISD. There are several precautions in place, though. We take a rapid test prior to the meeting. We have dividers up there in the dais, so that we're not, and we leave our masks on the entire time, trying to model kind of what we're doing for our face-to-face classroom instruction. So I don't think it's a question of I think we've been a very effective board considering. I think most of the boards that have met and done this through COVID have been effective. The business has gone on. We haven't, let things go by the wayside. But I believe that it's a personal decision because everybody needs to protect their health and that of their families. And another thing too, I think we need to leave it open, not just because of the government's orders, because there might be somebody that might be feeling a little sick and not just think it's appropriate to come in. They might just have a cold, but don't want to present with that cold right now in a pandemic in front of the group, but they also don't want to miss the meeting. So I don't know. Those are just my thoughts on that.
Mr. Avalos, do you have a thought? I believe we lost.
He dropped out.
We dropped him. Okay. Ms. Searles?
Well, I'm okay with doing anything everybody else wants to do. And I hate to be the fly in the ointment, but I feel that I need to be truthful with you all. I travel. And, I don't know how you all feel about that. Would you rather I didn't come, maybe? I don't want to be the... If y'all understand what I'm trying to say, I would like it if you all, I just told you I travel. I've traveled a lot during COVID. And I'd hate to be, to be that person, oh, here comes Laurie. I wonder where she's been and, is she a problem? I'd hate to be that person. I'm happy to come, and if you all would like me, I just feel like with everybody's best health in mind, do you want me to, maybe tell Mr. Miller, tell Miss Kilgore something ahead of time? I was gone 5 days ago. Oh, well, we don't want you. Or, well, no, I haven't been gone at all. Oh, okay, well, then you can come. So I'd like you all to just, be comfortable with what my position is on that. But I'm happy coming. I don't mind at all.
And that's what we're taking. I would like to say something. And Lori, that's why we take precautions, 6 feet apart, wearing a mask, and we can take other precautions. But no, we would love to see your face here. Come on down.
Yeah, come on down.
Okay, so when I come, if y'all have bad faces, I'll know that wasn't true.
Just cover up, girl.
Please let me know, and if you all think about it later, go, oh, well, maybe we really don't want Laurie there. Maybe she ought to stay home. Just, my feelings wouldn't be hurt. I just wanted to be really open with you all and let you know. And, if you have any thoughts about it later, I'm okay with you, bringing that up.
Well, thank you for that. I believe our March meeting is the one we sent out the query about to the various folks. I looked at the results of that, and I believe only Mr. Stout said he would prefer meeting remotely. As I said earlier, I don't believe we can take away the remote option completely, but if everybody is comfortable with it, I think it would, particularly with the March meeting with the legal presentation, it would behoove us to all meet jointly and in person. As I said, I don't think there's anything we can do to force you to come, but maybe we would encourage you, and I would suggest perhaps you might look into the rapid test option.
We will. One of the things, if I may, we've had public coming into our building since May 4th. We've had hearings where the public has come in and our A or B members have been here. So we have plexiglass dividers. We're going to totally redo the boardroom so that the tables are separated. Instead of a board circle, it will be individual tables and you'll be separated out. We take temperatures of everybody. Those of you who came in had your temperature taken. So we do that. We'll look into the rapid testing, and then we can put those dividers that Ms. Lucero that you were speaking of that we use in our A or B panel rooms, we can put those up. But we feel pretty comfortable. We would like to try it, put it together and have the board come in and see what they think. And then, of course, the board members can give us any feedback, Mr. Miller, as to what they might like to see different. We definitely will. And I'll get HR to look into that rapid test. I don't know what the requirements are because we don't have a nurse on hand, so I'm not sure how we go about, but we'll look into it and find
See
out.
if there's something that
Yeah.
might be available.
We
I
will.
don't know, to give peace of mind there. This item is number 6, and I don't know that it requires any action other than this discussion.
I was just going to ask you on that one.
Other than, as I said, I don't believe we can quit, we can stop.
We'll keep the remote.
The remote
Yeah.
broadcasting anyway, but we can encourage folks. It's the same discussion for item number 7.
Yes.
As I said before, item number 7 is similar. It's for in-person training. Would encourage you to be here in person for that one, but if you cannot, we will certainly do what we need to there.
Yes.
And what's our date on that, Chairman Miller?
March 18th.
The 18th.
Is that the next one?
March
Thank you.
18th.
Okay.
It's a month away.
If I'm being real, I'm probably going to do that, but I'll let you guys know. I'll probably do that one remotely, but I am coming to the board meeting. It's not that I don't want to see y'all's face twice.
Are you
But
going to be in
I do
Cancun?
like-
Are you going to be in Cancun with our senator?
Oh, yeah. I heard about
I finally got my ticket, and so yes, I'm out. I'm just kidding. I'm going to attend it. I'm going to do it remotely,
Okay.
if that's okay.
For those that may want to continue to do remote with the attorney's training for that day, we'll, if he's going to have a PowerPoint, we'll try to get that in advance so that we can send copies of that to everybody, so that if you do decide even at the last minute that you want to do remote, you'll have the handouts. I think I can work with Ms. Hegeman and Joe Longoria to put that together.
Okay. Okay, that's items number 6, and I believe adequate discussion for number 7. I don't believe any action is necessary
No,
for
sir.
those. So we can move on to, is there further discussion on either one of those items, 6 or 7?
I want to say something. We should try and make it in, and be person to person, especially for the training. I would encourage you to try and be present, at least for the training.
Thank you, Mr. Mena. Anybody else? Okay, we can move on to item number 8, report on settled lawsuit. Ms. Kapoor.
Yes, sir. You received the spreadsheet that Mr. Pettis puts together, Eduardo Pettis puts together, of the lawsuits that were settled. Also, you received the January 2021 litigation arbitration report. Basically, about 11%. I'm going by numbers with UMC, University Medical Center, because they have the least amount of exemptions when I work my percentages, but about 11% of the overall appraisal roll is under protest or under lawsuit, I should say. But you've gotten all that information. If there's anything in specific or particular you'd like to go over, I will be happy to. Mr. Pettis and I are here to answer any questions.
All right, I have one question. That 11%, how does that compare year over year?
It's high.
It's high.
It's high. We are seeing more lawsuits. We're seeing a lot of lawsuits on the disaster exemption, claiming economic disaster qualifies, even though the code and the attorney general and the governor have said it doesn't. We're seeing a lot of lawsuits on that. So it's going to be, and we feel probably 2021 is going to follow suit in the number of lawsuits.
And of those, I'm going to call them disaster lawsuits, or prompted by the disaster, is there any idea of how they'll go?
No.
Percentage-wise, how are the courts going to view those?
We have no idea, but it's going to go to court. It will, and throughout the state, we're not the only appraisal district. We're about, I think, the second largest one on the number that was filed on the disaster, but it will go to court and may possibly go to the Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court.
The Texas
It's
Supreme Court?
Texas, It's a matter of law, so we are anticipating that on those. We have about 254, I think, of those. So if there's any questions or anything.
Mr. Miller, how, if it does go to the Texas Supreme Court, how is that gonna deplete our funds for the litigation funds? Because I know that's pretty
Yes.
pricey.
Yes. We're hoping that one of the bigger districts will will take the lead, like Houston. We'll take the lead. They have a lot bigger budget, but yes, it will. But it'll be several years. Well, I won't say several years, but it'll be a couple of years before we get to that point. So hopefully we can start building up our litigation reserve again. So we do have a bigger reserve. Last year, because we didn't have quorum in September, we weren't able to add to that reserve. So we're hoping that we'll be able to add to that reserve at the end of the 2021 fiscal year. But yeah, that will, I mean, that's very costly. And that's one of those cases that really cannot, a value case, we can negotiate, and neither one will be happy with the value, but we can go through mediation and come up with a value difference. But when it's a matter of law, it's the law. And so we'll just have to see how it plays out.
Okay.
It won't happen for a couple of years.
Well, let's start building that fund because it's eventually going to happen.
Eventually it's going to happen, yes, sir. Okay. And there's new legislation going on right now that may change that law. So we have to wait and see what happens with that too.
Okay, that was it.
Anybody have further discussion on this item? Hearing none, we can go on to item number 9, the Chief Appraiser Report.
Okay, couple of things real quick. The property value study that the state comptroller does on all of the school districts in all of the counties. 2020 was our year for the property value study. Out of 9 school districts, 7 school districts were in confidence level and were approved with our value. 2 school districts were out of confidence, and those were Santa Lazario and El Paso ISD. What we found out with El Paso ISD was that there was an issue with utilities, and we have talked to the comptroller's office, and we're working with them on that. But we went ahead and filed a protest on the values study for EPISD, for El Paso ISD, and for Santa Lazario ISD. And we're getting all of our information together. Pretty much we're close to finishing that, and we'll submit that information, all that data, and all those reports. And it'll take a little while before we get results. But we're pretty pleased. There's so many school districts throughout the state were out of confidence for 2020, just because of valuation issues with trying to evaluate properties during a COVID crisis. So we are pretty pleased with that. If anybody wants to know your individual ratio, I'll be happy to tell you. Anthony was 1.00. Canutillo School District was 97.97. Clint was 96.56. We have to be at 95. Fabens was 97.79. Socorro was 97.11. Tornillo was 96.56. And Isleta was 96.02. These reports are sent to the superintendents of the school districts, so they have these reports. With El Paso ISD and with San Lazario ISD, we've already received permission from those superintendents to file the protest. So we're in the process of finalizing the data that we're going to be sending.
Where were they at?
Let me see. San Lazario was at 92.72, and EPISD, get this, 94.5.
Barely missed it.
And we're supposed to be at 95, right? So with the correction to the utilities, and then there's some business personal property that we're going to ask to be corrected also, we're really confident EPISD will get in. And we're working on San Lazario. We feel pretty good about that. I'm really pleased at these numbers. There were years that we were in the 86, 85, 84 percentile. So the last several reports, because it's every other year that they do this, we've been really lucky to be in the 90s. So even if we're not at 95, we're close. So I'm really pleased with our staff to be able to hold those. So I'm really grateful for that. Even with all the protests and the lawsuits, we've been able to hold values so that when the state comes in and tests our values, we're not that bad. So I'm just really pleased. The MAP study, which is the methods and procedures study, that's going on right now. That's for the year 2021. I think I told you in January that we were working with a field appraiser from the comptroller's office on that. Okay, that we have submitted everything. The field appraiser has no recommendations and was very pleased with everything that he asked for that we submitted. But again, it is reviewed by the comptroller's office, and we won't get a final until the fall. But our field reviewer was very pleased, had no recommendations so far. So far, keep your fingers crossed. Wanted to let you know, remember in January, I told you we were going to be helping the city tax office by having a mobile unit and drop box for taxpayers to be able to come and pay their taxes since the city tax office was closed. Well, the county tax office had 4 offices that they opened for people to be able to go pay their taxes. And they had, even on Saturdays, we didn't do a Saturday, but we did do the last week of January. And I got the numbers. They collected over $2.3 million, almost $2.4 million this year. It was down from last year because the transactions were just a little over 1,000 transactions this year. But we had 696 Dropbox payments. And they didn't have the numbers, the dollars on that. But so we actually had almost 1,700 transactions that we were able to help out the city tax office people be able to come in and pay their taxes. I made a off the cuff comment that, well, I promise we'll help you again next year. And the city tax assessor collector, Maria Pacias, sent me an email, says, I'm holding you to it and I'm saving this email. So, but anytime that we can help, the public, we're very centrally located. So other than that, unless the board has any questions of me, then I'm done.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Ms. Searles.
Ms. Kilgore, when you went through the numbers for the ISDs, you said that, or at least I heard, that Anthony was at 1.
Right, 100%.
Oh, thank you. Okay,
I'm sorry. Yeah, 100%.
Up in the 90s, and Anthony's only a 1. Okay,
yeah,
so
no, Anthony's at 100%. I'm sorry, I should have clarified that. Yeah, Anthony's at 100%.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I know, right? Like I said, well, I'm very, 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 very happy with the staff. They work so hard, and this shows it. These type of things, this is where it comes out. So we have a fantastic staff. Okay, I'll shut up.
I just wanted to say something about, I swung by to sign some paperwork during the, when they were collecting the tax, and I just wanted to add that I was very proud and impressed the way you guys were handling things. I know you guys were dealing with inclement weather, with wind, with rain, and I sat out there for a little bit, and you guys did a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
Bravo Zulu to all you guys for doing what you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we actually utilized 3 or 4 of our staff members. Ms. Carter, your liaison officer, was out there helping. We had a queuing line where people were 6 feet apart. We had chairs for those that had to sit. We had folks that could assist anyone that was in a walker, wheelchair, or cane. We were very, conscientious to help them out. But they were out there, and we have a lot of people that don't bring their tax bills. So we had set up a system that we would get the information, and the people that were outside would then come in and print up a bill and then take it back out to them. But they got to stay in line while this was happening. So they didn't lose their place in line, and it ran a lot smoother. So, yeah, we did utilize some staff, and so it was a cost to us. But you know what? We're here to help the public. That's what we're all about, helping doing what we need to do for the taxing entities and for the public. So, and I did want to tell the board, and I'm sorry, we do have our ARB chair and our ARB secretary, Philip and Sylvia here. They had training, 2 days training with an MAI appraiser and their tax attorney, their attorney, the MAI John Trable and their attorney Roy Armstrong. These are the 2 gentlemen that the state comptroller uses to train ARB members throughout the state. So we were able to get them actually come in person and do a two-day training of all of our appraisal review board members. So just wanted to pass that on. And if you had any questions, they are here. All right. Mr. Miller, thank you.
Thank you. Further questions for our executive director? Okay, I believe items number 10 and 11 are unnecessary. Therefore, being no further items on the agenda, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to
So
adjourn.
moved.
Is there a second? That's a Mr. Mena and a second.
I'll second.
All
And
right.
the time is 5:45 p.m.
That was a good meeting.
That was a great meeting.
That's
Thank you,
right.
board members.
It was a real good meeting.